Hey, what it do? Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your boy Mongo Slade, and today we're going to do a Royal Rumble retrospective on Royal Rumble 1998, which I haven't seen in a long time. So, I obviously, when we do retrospectives, we look at several different things. You know, the A story, the B story, the C story going into the match, or that was born within the match. The Iron Man, the Final Four, and then we go through the rest of it. So obviously, this match was in the Attitude Era, so it can only be won by one person, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Um, he was the A story going into the match. The match was Stone Cold Steve Austin was quote unquote marked man. He had been attacking various wrestlers for little to no reason earlier in the lead up to the Royal Rumble in preparation for the Royal Rumble. So everybody wanted to attack Steve Austin, and that was the story going throughout the night. The B story was the three faces of Foley. Foley having some entering as Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love with no explanation of how he was able to do that. So I mean, it is what it is. This was a paper thin roster. We'll get to it in a second, but it was a paper thin roster. And the C story was the dissension of the Nation of Domination. Obviously, The Rock was starting his climb as being a main event guy and surpassing Farouk and really pissing Farouk off. So this was the chance for all the members of the nation to sort of either work together or fall apart, and they did both at the same time. So, but of course, they ended up losing because the nation couldn't stand together. But that was very interesting. So and Iron Man was The Rock. It was actually two Iron Men in this match, which was really good. I think it was very good because one of them was Bradshaw. Bradshaw was in this match for 40 minutes. The Rock was in it for like 50 plus. Fantastic stuff. And for Bradshaw to be a lower card guy, for them to give him that much time is stunning as far as I'm concerned. But when you go through the roster of who was in this match, you can tell that this was a paper thin roster, an entire match built around one guy. And when I get to the positives and negatives near the end of this, that's going to actually be one of the things I think is a knock against it. The Royal Rumble is always best when it has an opportunity for there to be more than one winner. When there is, only one guy who could possibly win, it's substantially less fun unless you do fun things in the match that can make the match better. And this match had a little bit of that. But let's go through it. Number one was Cactus Jack, and number two was Chainsaw Charlie. There was absolutely no attempts to hide who Chainsaw Charlie was. Everybody knows it was Terry Funk. Terry Funk has been on TV since the 60s or 70s or something like that. There was no way to hide it. But basically, they said that Terry Funk is crazy, and that's why he decided to be Chainsaw Charlie, and that he's just as crazy as Cactus Jack, who has 3 personalities, and I guess Terry Funk has to have 2. This match started with these two guys in the ring with garbage can lids and steel chairs and a chainsaw, which was obviously not on. But of course, that's their gimmick. So they traded hitting each other with chairs. And what made this even funnier is Cactus Jack was kicking Chainsaw Charlie's ass. And then Chainsaw Charlie started to beg off a little bit. Terry Funk started to beg off. And he lifted the stockings because he's obviously wearing stockings like over his face. And he's looking at it and he's like, it's me. Like, look at me. And then he braced his neck and told Foley to hit him with the chair. This was a completely different world. Like when Undertaker comes out and says that in Goldberg and all these guys talk about, the locker room is soft. This dude was asking for a steel chair to the head. This was 1998. He was asking for a steel chair to the head. So Cactus Jack bashed him across the head with the chair. And then he asked for another one because of course he would. It's the ECW mindset that you can't just take one concussion. You have to take multiple. And then he later he's asking for another one. And then Foley thought about it. And then he gave him the chair and said, hit me with the chair. And then Terry Funk hits him with the chair. It was ridiculous. Tom Brandy was number 3. Tom Brandy is old Salvatore Sincere. And good God, what a shit gimmick that was. Oh, look. I've never seen Tom Brandy do anything else except Salvatore Sincere. So I can't say that he was any good at anything else. But that was horrible. He was like the guy. The gimmick was, I'm trying to do this off memory, but the gimmick was basically the guy who was floating down the rivers in Italy. Like they have the rivers in the middle of the city, and they have those little boats that they go through. I forget what they call them. I don't want to call them a gondolier because I think a gondolier is something else. But they have those little river boats, and they go through the city. And I remember the vignettes clearly because I was like 13 when this match happened. I was about to be 14 in April. But this little gondolier or whatever, and I remember him like paddling through. It was horrible, and I had no idea what the hell he was supposed to be. I had no idea. It was so dumb. The Rock was number 4, which was awesome. And The Rock had wrestled Ken Shamrock earlier in that night, so he went 50 minutes in this match, and wrestled earlier. So this was a stunning performance, a real showcase for The Rock in this show. They really put The Rock out there because they didn't have much. When you look at the rest of this roster, they didn't have much. Mosh was number 5, Headbanger Mosh. And this is when I actually remembered, I didn't remember much about the Headbangers, didn't care that much, but they used to wear skirts. I remember them being real gross. Like they used to spit up in the air and spit into their own mouths and like white spit all over themselves and shit. Real pig behavior. But I completely forgot that they used to wear skirts. So, I was stunned by that because I was like, okay, well, skirts it is, dog. So Phineas Godwin was number 6. Number 7 was 8 Ball, who I have no idea who that is. Was that Brian Lee, the fake Undertaker? I believe it was. I think that was him. Number 8 was Bradshaw, who began his journey through the Royal Rumble. Cactus Jack was eliminated by trying to take down Chainsaw Charlie. Basically, he was running at Chainsaw Charlie. Chainsaw Charlie pulled the rope down, and he flipped over the top rope and was eliminated. Around this time, Jerry Lawler starts spreading rumors on commentary that Steve Austin is not going to be in the Royal Rumble. That he's not going to be in the Royal Rumble because he was attacked. Later on, it was said that the reliable sources would tell him that Steve Austin was attacked by Ken Shamrock, and that Ken Shamrock had taken out Steve Austin, and he wasn't going to be in the Royal Rumble. So Shamrock is a babyface by this point, but he's a nut. So he's like always attacking people and stuff, like taking out refs and shit. But this was very good, and I think this was pretty much a rip on the dirt sheets. He kept talking about his reliable sources. His reliable sources kept saying this and kept saying that, which was really interesting. And JR talked a lot about Mike Tyson being on Raw. They made sure that if you watched this, of course, you would watch Raw, but they used Mike Tyson to get you to watch this, right? Like Mike Tyson is going to be at the Royal Rumble. They didn't say he was going to be in it, but he said he was there. Number 9 was Owen Hart, and Owen Hart was attacked by Orange Boots Jeff Jarrett in the aisleway with Jim Cornette. And if I had not just seen the NWA clips from Jim Cornette, I probably would not have remembered this happened. Because this was so minor. It was so dumb. Jeff Jarrett is wearing orange boots. Why? Why is his boots orange? It made no sense. And who the fuck cared about the NWA in 1998? Nobody. Nobody gave a shit. The NWA died years before this, probably 10 years before this, if we're being honest. And then they tried to resurrect themselves by clinging to ECW, and then Shane Douglas threw that belt down, and then nobody gave a fuck about the NWA since. So it's really strange that we had an NWA resurgence in the New York territory, which has always been the territory that has been the most resistant to the NWA. Like, Vince J. McMahon didn't really fuck with the NWA. Vince K. McMahon certainly didn't fuck with the NWA. He tried to put him out of business. So what did you think was going to happen when he started getting those phone calls like, yeah, we want to do an NWA faction? Like, the New York doesn't fuck with the NWA. So this was so dumb. All of this was dumb. But this was the Black Heart version of Owen Hart, which is the post-Montreal Screwjob version of Owen Hart, where you have, I like this version of Owen. This was great. I think Shawn pretty much put the kibosh on Owen wrestling Shawn in an extended feud. But I really liked this version of Owen, and I wish they could have did more with him. It feels real upsetting that he had so much steam after the Montreal Screwjob. He had so much sympathy because he was the one who stayed behind, and even Bulldog left. And it was terrible what happened to Owen, and this was the bookend before he died. you know, which is trash. But they took out Owen early, and he would come back later, of course, but they took him out. Number 10 was Steve Blackman, the man with negative charisma. Number 11 was D'Lo Brown, who is probably the most underrated worker ever. D'Lo Brown was good at a time where being good didn't matter, right? He never would have gotten to the main event. And then, of course, he broke a man's neck, which, that happened. That was a mistake. And it killed his confidence. I remember seeing shoot interviews of him talking about this, about D'Lo, talking about how he it was an accident what happened, and he was still messed up about it. And this was years after the fact. And he talked about how he wanted to quit the business and he didn't want to do it anymore. And it took for Dross to talk him into staying in the business. Like, it was a freak accident. Things happen that, kept him working. And I remember he did some stuff in the NWA, TNA during those days. He was there. But D'Lo was really underappreciated. And I'm glad that, the internet generation has kind of gone back and looked at these guys like D'Lo, like Power and Glory, who were underappreciated. That's the good thing about the internet, is that the nerds went back and they mined through this old stuff and they see like, oh, this guy was really good. This guy was really good, underappreciated guys. And D'Lo was one of them. And D'Lo was always a guy I always enjoyed watching him work. He was really good. Number 12 is Kurgan, who I forgot existed. Kurgan is basically a tree. He's like Swamp Thing. He's just basically like a tree monster. I had no idea. Like when I saw Kurgan, I remembered the Truth Commission, which is now led me to remember that that's what Don Callis did in WWE. So like when I was watching ECW, they talked about him getting fired from WWE a lot. Like Joey Styles would always make that joke about how he got fired from New York and all that stuff, even though ECW was also New York. But it was more like Philadelphia. But I was like, what the fuck did he do? And I kept thinking to myself, like, what did Don Callis do in WWE? But I hate to Google things, because if you have to Google it, you don't know it, right? So then when I saw this match and I saw Kurgan, I was like, oh yeah, Kurgan was part of the Truth Commission. Who else was in the Truth Commission? And I remember they all looked like the guy from Street Fighter, the Rolando from Street Fighter, or Rolento. So, and I was like, was Don Callis in the Truth Commission? Like, sure it was. He was a jackal. That's the shits. Oh, that was the Truth Commission was the shits. I don't even know what it was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be like the Special Forces or something? Like the Navy or some shit? Like, it was trash. Mark Merrow comes in at number 13. Mark Merrow comes along with Sable, and Sable has a whip. And I don't know why Sable has a whip, but she does. Like a ass spanking whip. Like, is that? And she didn't use it. So I'm like, why should she have a whip? It's just because it's 1998, I guess. JR completely buried Mark Merrow on commentary by saying he needs a charisma bypass. Like, shit all over the guy, why don't you? Shit all over him, why don't you? Why not? Why not? Just shit all over the guy. He's not going to get over anyway, right? Number 14 was Ken Shamrock. And Ken Shamrock was, of course, amazing. I love Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock, of course, goes in there and goes right at to The Rock. Him and The Rock fight. Him and a bunch of other people fight. Shamrock gets eliminated by The Rock a lot later. It was a little bit later. Because The Rock hit him in the nuts and threw him out. So the Ken Shamrock Rock story was great stuff. It was really good shit. It started earlier in the night. So if you watched it as a complete show and not just watch this match, you got to see that Shamrock and The Rock had a match earlier that ended real fugazi, with Shamrock sort of winning the title but getting screwed out of the title and the brass knuckles and all that stuff. And then it continued in this match. So it was a wonderful bridge. It was a great storytelling. Vince Russo stole most of his ideas from ECW, but he did a slightly better job of bridging things together. And it also makes sense that a lot of Vince Russo shit turned to trash when there was no ECW for him to steal from. So number 15 was Thrasher. Number 16 was Mankind. Mankind came in, immediately eliminated Chainstar Charlie. Of course, there was no conversation at all about how he could do this, how he could come in as more than one person. Number 17 was Goldust, who lasted quite a long time. I think he's in here for like 30 minutes. Number 18 was Jeff Jarrett. When Jeff Jarrett came in, of course, Owen Hart came out, and Owen Hart threw him from the ring, which was pretty cool. Around this time, you started. Kurgan was eliminated, so you had about 7 guys band together to throw out Kurgan. Which I was surprised Kurgan was still in there. I mean, come on, are you being serious? Mark Merrow kept dancing and shadowboxing in the middle of the ring, and of course Jerry Lawler kept talking about how he could teach Mike Tyson a thing or two about fighting, and how Jerry Lawler himself was talking about knocking out Mike Tyson. It was real ridiculous. So once Owen Hart had tossed out Jeff Jarrett, Owen next antagonist came out as Triple H came out on crutches. And Chyna tried to hit Owen Hart with, as Owen Hart was trying to eliminate Goldust, Chyna tried to hit Owen Hart with a crutch. Owen Hart caught the crutch, and then Triple H banged him across the head with another crutch, and Owen fell out the side of the ring. This led, of course, to that WrestleMania 14 match, which they could have kept if we're being honest. 2 guys who can work, who are really good, and it was probably wrong place, wrong time. Like, it probably would have been a good match on a B pay-per-view, but for Royal Rumble, for WrestleMania rather, it felt very low for Owen. Even though this was one of Owen's first one-on-one matches at WrestleMania, he had not had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania since WrestleMania 10. So I think that the Owen Hart Triple H match was Owen's first solo WrestleMania match since he beat Bret at WrestleMania 10, which was 4 years prior. If my memory is correct, I don't think Owen wrestled singles match at WrestleMania 11. I think he was in the tags. 12, I know he was in tags. 13, I'm almost certain he was in tags. And 14, he wrestled Triple H. Crazy. That's how they treated Owen Hart. And that was before he died. Before he fell from the roof and. But this was a decent angle for the time. It was a good way to get out Owen and get some heel heat for Triple H in China. So that was fine. D'Lo Brown had been fighting The Rock all night. Now, him and The Rock got into it as soon as D'Lo came in, if we're being honest. And of course, they touted the whole every man for himself concept. Everybody's for themselves. But I think the story would have been better served with the Nation working together, because they kept fighting each other as they came in. So number 19 was the Honky Tonk Man, who I forgot was in this match. I think this was around the time Rockabilly was a thing, wasn't it? Rockabilly remains one of the funniest gimmicks of all time. Rockabilly, hilarious fucking gimmick. I don't care what nobody says. The shit was phenomenal. It was really bad. It was 100% wrestle crap, but it was 100% entertaining and funny as fuck. It was trash. Good Lord, Rockabilly was bad. So, but D'Lo and Mark Henry came in at number 21. Ahmed Johnson came in at number 20. D'Lo and Mark Henry actually jumped Ahmed Johnson. So the Nation versus Ahmed Johnson feud was back on. Like, they were feuding in 96, because that's when the initial injury happened. And then 97, they were still feuding. They had that great match at WrestleMania 13 where it was Ahmed and the Road Warriors against the Nation. And then Ahmed joined the Nation for a little while. And that was during the Nation's feud with The Undertaker, I believe it was. And then Ahmed got kind of left the Nation, or he got booted from the Nation. But he was tied with the Nation of Domination for like 2 years. Great shit. And Mark Henry and Ahmed got into a fight, and D'Lo helped Mark Henry, And then D'Lo and then D'Lo and Mark Henry started to fight. Number 22 was an empty space. I have the DVD box set that says that number 22 was supposed to be Skull from the Disciples of Apocalypse. Yeah, we could have done without him, but 22 was an empty space. Nobody came out. So number 23 was Kama Mustafa, who was a member of the Nation of Domination. It's the godfather for my younger viewers. He pushed Ahmed Johnson, who had gotten eliminated earlier. He shoved him during his entrance, which was I thought was pretty funny. I like that the number 22 was an empty spot, because it was similar to Royal Rumble 1994, where in Royal Rumble 1994, there was an empty space. They said it was Bastion Booger. But that was supposed to be, there is not going to be any Bret Hart, because Bret Hart was had gotten, quote-unquote, jumped. Well, he got his leg kicked out of his leg by Owen earlier in the night. So I like the empty spot it's kind of a screw job. That's the guy who wins doesn't actually beat 29 other people. He only beats 28, but it's a great storytelling device to have an empty space. And number 24 was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So when Steve Austin's music starts, of course, the entire match stops. Everybody stops fighting everybody, which of course makes no sense. But then everybody turns towards the entrance because they want to meet Steve Austin. They're gonna kick his ass for jumping them throughout the week. And Austin attacks them from behind. And the first one to go is Mark Merrill, because of course. Austin would eliminate a bunch of people in this match, including but not limited to 8-Ball, Thrasher, Savio Vega, who is not even in this match yet at this point, but he would come in later. And Austin, despite the fact that he came in late, they did some really good stuff with him. Henry Godwin was number 25. Savio Vega came in at number 26, and this is where, this was pretty good too, because Los Boricuas, which was the horrible stable that Savio Vega was a part of, or that he led, and I have no idea why they decided to do that. They looked like straight up pachucos. They all wore like jeans and stuff. It was absolute shit. I don't understand what the purpose of Los Boricuas was, except for they wanted to do gang warfare, where everybody who got kicked out of the Nation of Domination had to form their own faction. So it was horrible. God, it was real wrestle crap. But they attacked Steve Austin and beat him up. So they actually did a decent job of, even though Austin came in late. And it makes sense that Austin came in late. Usually I would say if the babyface is going to win, babyface should come in early. But in this situation, they actually put Austin through the ringer. They had him get jumped by Los Boricuas, and a bunch of other stuff happened. Number 27 was Farouk of the Nation. And this is where D'Lo Brown, who had been beating up other members of the Nation the whole night, decides to start putting his fist up like, yeah, I pledge my allegiance to Farouk, who pushed him out of the way to beat up The Rock. Because Farouk hates The Rock. So he took this opportunity, this every man for himself opportunity, to beat up on The Rock. And D'Lo was kind of like, what? So a little bit later, The Rock ended up outside the ring with Austin, and he banged his head up against the steps. And I think that when I was Goldust, I hit the steps. But I think it was he tossed him across the barricade, like his throat across the barricade. Again, so this was a little bit, number 28 was Do Love. Again, no explanation. Number 29 was Chains, because we're reaching for guys now. We're reaching for guys. And number 30 was Vader, who was eliminated by Goldust. And Vader got little to no time in this match. And he did not look impressive. They were done with Vader by this time. It's really heartbreaking. Because I went back and watched a lot of WCW. Vader was such an awesome talent. And Vince just did not give a fuck about Vader. He didn't care at all. It was really bad. The way they treated Vader was really bad. And I didn't feel bad about it when I was a kid, because I was kind of like, I knew Vader because I had seen some WCW. But he wasn't really my guy or anything. But then as I got older, I was like, damn, Vader was really good. What the fuck happened? And then you hear all these stories about how he was too stiff with guys, and then he stinks, and, they wanted to change his name to something they could trademark, and then they didn't want to change his name. And there was a bunch of other shit that happened. I was like, it made sense that Vince just didn't give a fuck about Vader, especially after Shawn buried him. It was like, what can you do? The final four was Farouk, Rock, Austin, and Dude Love. And this was great storytelling also. Now, despite the fact that the Nation of Domination had been fighting each other all night, the Nation of Domination banded together, Farouk and The Rock, against Austin and Dude Love. And it made sense here, and even the commentary noticed it, because I wouldn't have remembered it at all anyway, that Dude Love and Stone Cold were tag team partners. So, they had been tag team champions. So, it was the Nation versus a former pair of tag team champions. And that was really like dope, because these guys would be like natural partners, and they paired off, of course, into opponents. And then Dude Love turns on Austin, because it's every man for himself. Austin kicks him in the balls, and Farouk threw Dude Love out. And The Rock was in the corner catching a breath while Farouk and Austin fought. And you would think that the Nation would work together to eliminate Steve Austin and then settle their differences. But nope. The Rock went and took him a nap while Farouk was getting beat up by Steve Austin, and Steve Austin was getting beat up by Farouk. And then The Rock eliminated Farouk. He figured he had done enough. Then we got a short exchange between Rock and Austin, which led, of course, to the stunner and Rock being thrown over the top rope. So the Final Four situation was really good. Some of the booking and how they linked things with the earlier part of the night and how they linked things earlier in the show and linked stories that had been taking place before, also really good. And of course, it led to Steve Austin and Mike Tyson the next night on Raw, which was also pretty good. So it was a really good story, that they told here. But there was really no drama. There was really no drama because Steve Austin came in. The drama, really was waiting for Steve Austin. If you were in the crowd, though, did you know what Ken Shamrock, that Ken Shamrock is supposedly taking out Stone Cold? And yeah, you were waiting for Stone Cold if you were in the crowd, and when 22 came and he didn't come, you were kind of like, wait, what was that? But if you're watching it back, you're watching it through the TV, they're telling you, hey, Steve Austin's not going to be there because he got attacked by Ken Shamrock. And then it's like, whoa, a surprise when he comes out. But if you're in the crowd, do you really get that sort of surprise? Like, the only thing is you're just waiting for the one guy everybody wants to see. There was really no other drama in the match. So that was interesting. That was kind of a knock against it. It was pretty obvious who was going to win from the beginning. They basically put no emphasis on anybody else. The Rock got some shine, but there was no real idea, no real belief that The Rock was going to win this match. He was just in it for a long time. And but it did a good job of telling a story, and that's the important thing, is that it linked all of the previous weeks together, and then it linked the rest of the run up to WrestleMania. Did a great job. So this was a fun show. The talent roster was incredibly weak, but it was mostly fun with Foley having multiple introductions, with the Nation fighting each other. That stuff was really good. The Shamrock stuff was good. You would have liked more talent. The Owen Hart stuff was okay too, but you would have liked better, of course, talent in this match, and probably a better booking of the Nation with them working together. I think that would have got more heat, if they all would have worked together trying to eliminate Austin. But this was a different time, and they probably didn't think about that as much as they do now. Where like you have like the big Wyatt family things or the big Nexus things in the match where 3 or 4 guys band together to beat up everybody else. That could have been awesome if you'd have had those 4 guys, 4 members of the Nation, 5 members of the Nation, however many was in the match, working together to protect each other and keep each other from being eliminated. And then they started getting whittled down, through Steve Austin and other people eliminating them. And it comes down to Farouk and The Rock. And they can't work together because Farouk hates The Rock. And The Rock is, think he's above Farouk. But that's me Monday morning quarterbacking 22 years later or whatever. But what did you guys think of Royal Rumble 1998? Let me know in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I thank you guys again. I'll talk to you guys later. And use the hashtag 3Count Commentaries to support 3Count Commentaries. Can't say that enough. I thank you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.